Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of the tism, where the true crime is just as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases, and the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm In.
And I'm Meg.
We are the Pandemonium.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a sexy man on my arm.
I can see that, and you didn't kill him to get it, so mazel tov.
Get what?
She didn't kill somebody to get someone on her arm, so,
I have a red flag, and I have a green flag.
So, I have something very important we have to talk about before we talk about anything else. Do you know what today is?
Daylight savings.
Well, yes, but do you know, for the podcast, what episode this is?
100?
No, this is our 1 year episode.
Oh, I was close.
You were so close.
In my defense, I'm tasting blood, so.
Why are you tasting blood? Good morning, hunky.
I'm dehydrated, according to my tongue.
So you should have water, you dehydrated fucking houseplant.
I have coffee on the way.
You still need to have water. I can't hear you at all, Rachel. I believe the word son of the bitch has been used. Can't hear you. Do you have the mute button on your thingy pressed? Okay, hop out and hop back in. Weirdo.
I am a weirdo. What's your point?
I know.
I don't know. I've unplugged and plugged it back in.
Well, I mean, that's the same as turning it off and on again.
Right.
So, I think we should start off today, instead of catching up like we usually do and catch up our listeners. We have a new comment, by the way, but I'll get to that in a second, and a new follower.
Hey, no. Don't backtalk me.
Oh, Sekhmet.
Oh, but what I was saying earlier was that I was wondering, if you tasting blood was a normal thing when you're dehydrated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
But also when she runs.
It's because of my gums.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my gums.
Interesting.
I don't have the best dental record. Brush your teeth, guys.
You're doing better, though. I do have to say,
Brush
you were
your
doing
teeth
a
and
lot
floss.
better. Yes.
Yeah.
So, would you like the news?
Always.
Okay. So, as far as updates for the podcast, we have a new follower. She's in one of my book groups called Bookish Babes, which I'm very excited for. Her name is Stephanie. So let's just give that up to her. Oh, no, Samantha. Excuse me. My bad. Samantha still. Samantha, I don't even know a Samantha. We have 84 Spotify followers. And our new comment was on the Ghost Ship episode. So Ghost Ship's safety drills and Tom's rusty lost ball bearings. If you can remember that. Not the rusty ball bearings. So Samantha says, I have been to the USS Alabama. It is spooky. I've sat behind one of the guns. To make matters worse, I had to go through a tunnel under the water to get there with a vomit emoji, to which point I put 2 vomit emojis and I said, well, pass in the tunnels. No blank. No thanks. It is super spooky.
So the tunnel that she probably had to go through was the Mobile Tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because coming from Florida, you don't have to. The tunnel is after the ship. Yeah. But if you're coming from anywhere else, you have to go through the tunnel.
Stop fucking with Ares' altar before I sacrifice you to Anubis.
So, on that note, welcome to the shit show, guys. We're going to go a trip down memory lane, and we're going to talk about our favorite episodes. Emily, what was your favorite episode? You're muted.
Well, that was an interesting episode. I don't remember that.
I don't remember that one. Yeah, seriously, and I'm the one that edits this shit. So, oh my god.
I'm sorry, my cat stepped on my computer.
You're fine.
Oh man, it is so hard to narrow that shit down.
I know.
Right?
You're welcome. Glad I can make it difficult for you. It's just like a dick. Hard.
It's a joke, not a dick. Don't take it so hard.
What episode was your favorite?
I guess for me, it would have to be piano bars, drugs, bus depots, and the dismemberments of the last call killer.
Okay. All right. That was actually a fun episode. We knew things were going to happen to Dick because, of course, he's got a name like Dick. He is skinny and shy. He's the epitome of the nerd, right? He allegedly got a knife from his home and stabbed his neighbor to death. Because of this, Dick was institutionalized and quickly released and graduated from Palmetto High School in 1968.
Fun for who?
Fun for me! Because I got to listen to the mad guy.
I mean, I did not enjoy researching that because there were some live victims.
Right.
And that was traumatic, some of the stuff that they had gone through, and I was like, good God. How about you, Rachel? What was after a year?
It's really hard to pick. Honestly, I don't know if I have a favorite, just because I've enjoyed them all.
Right. Okay.
It's mostly the faces and sounds Cat ends up making.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make some pretty funny faces.
Whoa! Hold on. Wait a minute. I don't make that many funny faces.
Their historical society museum has a permanent section of their museum dedicated just to her.
What?
Yeah.
Due to their tendency towards eating humans.
I beg your finest pardon.
Fuck yeah, concrete!
And takes a perverse pleasure in terrorizing people.
I too take a perverse pleasure in terrorizing.
Oh god, that was a lot of words. You came straight out with the cannibalism. Like, right a fucking way.
You make a good few.
Never mind. I take that back. As Meg was unavailable at our last episode, we were able to find out what her favorite episodes and discussions were.
What is in a favourite? Let me count the ways. But really, I have way too many favourites to list, but here are just a few. One was from the Florida Man episode, where I think we had discussed a previous topic, and I had profusely thanked the team for not inviting me to that discussion because I believe it dealt with a few things that my fair heart just can't handle.
We discussed a horrible, horrible death of many numerous infants.
Oh, infants?
Yeah. And that was
My god, thank you for not inviting me.
that was on Valentine's Day. Special Valentine's Day episode.
God. Okay. I'm really glad I've already eaten. Second would be our chat on the Maryland episode, where we talked about M's suspiciously creepy coin and its ways of being procured.
Ooh, should we flip a coin?
Do we have a spooky coin?
I have a spooky coin.
That's weird. Why is it spooky?
Mine is a
Coin
haunted
that I
demon.
took from my granddad.
Mine's a
from his
haunted
pocket.
demon box.
Oh, yours
Yours
lives
is
in a doom box.
Oh gosh. That one doesn't come out then. If it lives in a doom box, come on. We're already modding the day. Let's
Demon
not invite
box.
other things.
Demon
I love
box.
how no one questioned where I got this
No!
from.
I also loved the Ghost Ships episode, where I believe we had our first appearance of Great Aunt Maud during cold and flu season. Gotta love her. And the fact that I had, as usual, none of my shit together. I'm missing headphones.
Oh no.
Oh, God. Hold on. I also sound like somebody's Great Aunt Maud who's been smoking since she was like fucking 7.
I mean, to be fair, I loved my great Aunt Maud, and she was my great great Aunt Maud, and I met her once.
And she is who I sound like because apparently the gods have not smiled on me. So where the fuck is my shit? I'll be right back. And then I believe there was one other, I mean, like I said, I could go on and talk about all of the episodes that I loved, but it has been quite a ride and quite a time, and I cannot wait to continue this with the lovely hosts and all of you. I think in a previous episode, I said I didn't know what I wanted to be as a shape-shifting something. I figured it out. I would like to be a Selkie.
You want to be a Selkie?
Right? I choose Selkie because I don't want to be a werewolf. I already hate hair. Like, no. So I don't want to be a werewolf. I don't want to be a vampire because, like, ugh, teeth, not my thing.
So
I don't want to be a gene because, or
and just
what we
kind
call
of
genes.
Swimming around and just kind of floating and everything. Seems really kind of cool.
I would look great and wet and mad. Look at that. That photo is terrifying. I could pull that off.
And that was our lovely, talented Tarot Mama Meg giving us her favorite episodes. Let's see here. It's a good one. My favorite episode, I think, because for me, it was a trip down memory lane for working in that bar and grill as long as I did, living on a cot in a boathouse, like a block away, Shrek, Sunshine, and the Slaughters of Santa Cruz, where we talked about Ed Kemper. So I have been requested by a couple of people to do this story. So sorry. We are featuring Santa Cruz. When they got into a heated argument, upset, he stormed off and grabbed his grandfather's rifle, returned back to the kitchen, where she snapped, "You better not be shooting the damn birds again."
Mm-hmm.
At times he blamed the women he killed for hitchhiking, which he said was flaunting in my face the fact that they could do any damn thing they wanted, and society is screwed up already as it is. He stated that two beings inhabited his body and that when the killer personality took over, it was kind of like blacking out.
That's valid.
Because I forgot how beautiful Santa Cruz was. And looking at all those photos, I was like, man, I miss Santa Cruz. And I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want to spend, $3,000 for a studio apartment. Where it is.
Right.
Of course, our listeners, if you're listening and you have a specific spooky episode you would like to talk about, I know my husband has a favorite one. Honey, you're still waking up. What was your favorite episode? Oh goodness, he's such a housewife. I love you. Do you have a favorite? Hmm. Listening to me cackle on the really good episodes? Okay.
I mean, that's valid.
That's valid.
That's love.
Heinous.
My favorite episode is just hearing you laugh.
Aww. Even when I can't breathe.
That's the best. Oh no!
Wheezing laughs makes it so much better.
What
I
happened?
got Grande dirty.
Oh,
no.
It's a good thing that Grande is machine washable. I bought M a stuffed pig because she was sad.
I was very sad.
So
Grande.
We're gonna-
Pickles.
we're going to be posting some, I'm going to be cutting some audio from those episodes and putting them on here. So today's going to be a little bit longer than normal episodes. Normal episodes are for your bite-sized enjoyment. They're roughly about an hour to an hour and a half long, typically. So because I knew Emily was definitely going to be on this episode, she loves unsolved cases.
Oh boy.
Yep. So just specifically to you, we are going to be taking a trip to West Virginia.
It had to be West Virginia.
I know. West Virginia.
Look, man, I got
Ding,
history.
ding, 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 ding.
I got history with WV8.
We're taking a plane, train, and an automobile to Fayetteville, where we find ourselves the most disturbing missing persons case that I think any podcast has ever covered.
Hit
Is
me
this
with
the
that
one I'm
name.
thinking about from like the 20s?
So it's been covered on several different podcasts, of course. Our queen herself, Miss Bailey Sarian. It's also been covered by the Smithsonian Investigation Discovery, or ID. It's also been covered by the Infographic Show, our Daddy Bagel Bites, and Huffington Post, actually.
Weird flex.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about the case that Rachel does not like, the Sodder Children.
The one I was thinking about.
No.
Yeah.
I love this case.
So, Too Long Didn't Read, for all of our listeners out there, if you're just joining us, welcome. We have little snippets right at the beginning. If you want to skip further in the episode, this is your Too Long Didn't Read. George Sodder and Janine Caprini. Sodder, not Caprese, which I read 4 dozen times when I was doing this research. Along with their 10 children, lived in a simple home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. The house was engulfed in flames. The parents and 4 of their children escaped, but the bodies of the other 5 have never been found. Of course, as every story starts, we start at the beginning.
I mean, it's always a great place to start.
I say we start at the end and work our way backwards.
Then people get confused.
Man, fuck
Meanwhile,
them people.
my brain is singing the Do Re Mi song from Sound of Music. Start at the very beginning. Very good place to start. So here's where the truly beginning is. I can't give you the whole story without giving you the beginning, guys. So I am very sorry. But George Sodder was born under the name Giorgio Sudo in Tulla, Sardinia, Italy, which is out in the middle of nowhere. I love you. I'm saving that. Posting it on our podcast page.
The one I sent.
The one that M just sent.
Ah.
Did you send one? You just sent one too. Nope.
To sister chat.
Nope. That was me getting a video. That is not what I wanted to do. Oh. He ripped his pants. That sucks. Anyways. So in 1895, George Sodder was born. Giorgio Sadu. He immigrated to the U.S. at 13 with an older brother who went back home as soon as both boys had cleared customs at Ellis Island. For the rest of his life, George, as he became known, instead of Giorgio, I like the name Giorgio. Solid. He would not talk much about why he left his homeland in Italy. He eventually found work on the railroads of Pennsylvania, carrying water and other supplies for workers. So after a few years, he took more permanent work as a driver in Smithers, West Virginia. So after a while of trucking and all that good stuff, he started his own trucking company, initially hauling fill dirt to construction sites and later hauling coal mined in the region. Jeannie Capriani, the storekeeper's daughter in Smithers, who had also emigrated from Italy in her childhood. The two were married in 1922. It's a very good year. The two were married in 1922, and they settled in nearby Fayetteville, which, fun fact, had a large population of Italian immigrants. So in that area of West Virginia, I found a lot of Italian restaurants.
Yeah.
So weird.
They may be racist, but they do like good food.
Let me tell you.
It's the seasonings, man.
It's the seasonings.
It is the seasonings.
What was it? We were talking yesterday. There's this place down here in Texas called Freebirds. It's just like Chipotle, but better. And when I say better, their jalapeno seasoning is like, when I say my mouth was on fire.
Whole ass jalapeno dipped in.
Just it was this seasoning sauce. It was like this cream sauce that for the salad that we had. My mouth was on fire and it was so good. What? Who spooked you?
You scared the hell out of me.
My God.
Yeah, we heard.
So, back to the
Your
story.
coffee must be here.
So, they bought and moved into a 2-story house 2 miles north of town, which for our other friends that aren't in the United States, it's 3.2 kilometers. On August 15th, 1923, John, the first of their 10 children, were born, and his nickname was Joe, as they do. 90% of the kids that I know that are born of Italian families that are named John are called Joe for short. Which,
yeah,
I get.
It was a thing.
Yep. So, George's business ended up prospering. He made a lot of money. They became one of the most respected middle-class families around. And the locals would talk very, very kindly of George. March 6, 1926, Marion was born. September 30th, 1929, George Jr. was born. But after all of these births, George still had a strong opinion about many subjects and was not shy about expressing them, sometimes alienating people in the process. One of them being, because this is right when World War I happened, what do you think one of his subjects was about? And it wasn't racism. What do you think one of the subjects was?
Oh man, if it's not racism, that takes out all of my thoughts.
That's why I said it.
It's look, man, it's the early 19s.
Do you want me to just to tell you?
Yes.
So it was about the Italian dictator Mussolini.
Oh, the dude that got assassinated?
I got some feelings about him. Let me tell you. We're not going to get into that. That's a can of worms we're not going to discuss.
That is a topic for another day.
Yes. If you would like me to discuss the rise and fall of Mussolini, I would definitely rabbit hole that.
Every 3 months, just do one history episode.
So his strident oppression
for so long.
Right. His strident oppression to the dictator Benito Mussolini has led to some strong arguments with other members of the Italian immigrant community. So he was ostracized for his feelings, his very strong feelings about Mussolini.
Well, it didn't help. He's Italian during World War II when we're fighting against Italy and Mussolini, and so
right. But this was prior to World War II. This was on the cusp of World War I want to say.
But still, like, at that time,
right. No, I get where you're going. Yeah.
It was like how the Americans didn't like the Irish, and so they just kind of accepted the Irish and then shifted that hatred towards the Italians at that point.
America has always had a racist past, and they went from one peoples to another.
Even if those people looked just like them,
right?
Didn't matter
because they spoke differently, they talked differently. And I mean, because I grew up with immigrant grandparents, and our family was very, very proud of our heritage. For the most part, we're not going to discuss my brother. And don't give me that look. That is not for today. So we would hang out with the Irish immigrants. We would hang out with the Greek immigrants. We would just hang out with a lot of immigrants, period. And I think because of that, I ended up being as accepting as I was when I shouldn't have with the background that I had. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I can jump on that soapbox as much as I want. So we left off in 29. July 8th, 1931, Maurice was born. January 22nd of 33, Martha was born. You're noticing a trend when they're getting born. December 30th, 35, Louise was born. September 19th, 1937, Jenny was born. March 4th of 1940, Betty was born. March 5th of 1942, Sylvia was born. So at this point, They popped out a slew of fucking kids. Joe, the oldest, was 17. And he had left home to serve in World War II. The following
He was
year...
old enough.
Mm-hmm. And most people at that time were sent to serve.
Mm-hmm.
If you were of the age. The following year, Mussolini was disposed and executed, but George's criticism of the late dictator had left some hard feelings in some people. They were definitely feeling some sort of way about George.
Only in some.
Well, that being said, October 1945, a visiting life insurance salesman, after being rebuffed, warned George that his house, quote, would go up in smoke and you and your children were going to be destroyed.
Well, that's a threat if I've ever heard one.
That's a threat, a premonition, or a...
Right. But, I mean...
Or he's just a damn good salesman.
Probably, but this was a house that they had, for the most part, built. They had added on and stuff like that. So, I mean... Anyways. So, he also added, attributing all of the dirty remarks you have been making about Mussolini. So, that is definitely a threat. Another visitor to the house, ostensibly seeking work, took the occasion to go around to the back and warn George that a pair of fuse boxes would cause a fire someday.
I mean, the fuse boxes back then were
Shaky.
sketchy.
Yes, sketchy, shaky at best, absolutely. So obviously George got puzzled because he's like, I know what's going on. Like, I just had the electrician out here. There's nothing wrong with my house, right?
Right.
Since he had just had the electrician out to the house, this is what was done. The house was completely rewired from scratch. There was a new electric stove, brand new, that was installed before Christmas. I think it was before Thanksgiving. And the local electric company had said afterwards, because they had inspectors that would come out after things were installed, that everything was safe and above par.
Right.
So
everything was now up to the new code,
right,
and
up to date. Everything was updated. So the Sodder family celebrated Christmas Eve on 1945. Marion, 19, the oldest daughter, had been working at a dime store in downtown Fayetteville, and she surprised three of her younger sisters, Martha, who was 12, Jenny, who was 8, and Betty, who was 5, with the new toys that she had bought for them. The younger children were so excited that they asked their mother if they could stay up past their usual bedtime. So,
okay, understandable.
Right, because it's Christmas. They just saw their sister. They got new gifts. They're excited. They promised they would do their chores before they went to sleep, so their parents said, okay, sure, go ahead and stay up, but you got to make sure you do your chores.
Right.
Mind you, this is a farmhouse. They have farm chores. It's in the middle of nowhere. So Emily, being our resident
Farmhand, what's up?
Yep. So farm, as I remember, when I was but visiting Mel in Oregon, you wake up at 5. Feed
You
the
wake
chickens.
up before 5.
Right, but I mean, like, I was lazy
Sun up
as
to
bitch.
sundown.
Seriously,
Yep.
sun up to sundown.
Before the crack of dawn, and you're in bed while the fucking sun goes down.
Mm-hmm. So that's typical, right? So obviously, before they go to bed and everything like that, they lock the doors, close the curtains, do everything like that, get everything ready.
Emphasis on close the curtains in West Virginia.
They live near the Appalachians, so it's not Appalachian.
Like I said, emphasis on closing the curtains.
You gotta close the curtains in Appalachia because you don't want the cryptids to look into your windows and see you doing the nasty with your cousin.
We're not talking about Alabama, Emily. We're talking about West Virginia. That's completely different.
You got me coughing over here, wheezing.
Alabama is just a different flavor of West Virginia, okay?
I mean,
Not wrong. Not wrong. Sorry to our Alabama listeners. Anyway,
And
so
our West Virginia listeners.
that too. So at 10
Like I
p.m.
said beforehand, I have beef with West Virginia.
Well, yeah, you do. I do not. I actually liked going to West Virginia.
You have beef because I have beef.
Yes, that's the only
That's
reason.
valid. You have beef by association.
I do. That's why you're Mexican by association. But as my cousin says, we're not Mexican. It's better to say that because I tried to explain to people that I'm San Salvadorian and they told me that Salvador Dali doesn't have a country.
I think I just lost 2 brain cells.
Listen, people try to get education from TikTok and that's not where you go. Anyways, back to the story.
I mean, some of the education on TikTok is fantastic.
Under
It
the
depends
news,
on what part of TikTok. Like Bill Nye has a TikTok.
I love Bill Nye. Bill.
Hank Green, and like there's
Mhm.
like a bunch of archaeologists on TikTok that I absolutely love.
Neil
Who
deGrasse
is
Titan.
So I guess you
Tyson.
could say take your knowledge from TikTok with a grain of salt.
With a very small grain of salt.
Like a singular tiny grain.
Yes. So, of course, we talked about sundown, right? That's when you start getting ready to go to bed. 10 p.m.
Not sundown towns, guys,
Not sundown towns.
Not
That was a different episode.
but
or
the 10
sundowners. Entirely other different thing.
That's a horror movie. Yeah, no. At 10 p.m., you're dead to the world.
You're dead to the world. So Jenny told them they could stay a little later as long as the oldest 2 boys who were still awake, 14-year-old Maurice and 9-year-old brother Luis, remembered to put the cows in and fed the chickens before going to bed themselves. Fine. It's
Okay.
a little late to be putting the cows and the chickens away, but I guess they weren't worried about coyotes or whatever.
Better late than never.
If that's not a response. So George and the 2 oldest boys, John 22 and George Jr. 16, who had spent the day working with their father, were already asleep, as you should.
Yeah, it's fucking 10 p.m. for one.
Mm-hmm. And for 2, they have to be up ass crack of dawn, literally. After reminding the children of those remaining chores, she took Sylvia, 3, upstairs with her and they went to bed together. After midnight, their mom, Jeannie Sodder, woke up to the phone ringing. When answered, the caller, a woman, stated she wanted to speak to someone, but Jeannie didn't know who it was. She didn't recognize the voice nor the name of the person she was looking for and thought it was odd to be calling so late. Also, there was a sound of laughter and clinking glasses in the background. Jeannie told the caller that she had reached the wrong number, and later, recalling the woman's weird laugh. So she thought it was a prank call. Understandably so, right?
Probably a little irritated because of the time of night.
So,
Yeah, like it's 10 o'clock at night. The fuck you doing calling me on my house line? This ain't free.
well, at this point, it was midnight. It was after midnight when they called.
Oh, those poor operators.
The operators were 24 hours, so.
Yeah, but like they're sitting there like, oh, fuck, really?
Well, and at that point, telephones were still a relatively new thing. And a lot of places, they had one line, and it was whoever answered the phone first got the phone call.
Right.
And so if it was for somebody else along the line, that person had to send somebody to go to that other person's house, tell them to pick up the phone so you could then hang up the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my great granny had one of the first phones in the area, but that's also because she was running a bar and we loved her.
I love Granny.
We loved Granny. So she laughed off the phone call, ignored it, hung up the phone. As she returned to bed, she noticed the lights were still on, the curtains were still open, and the 2 things that the children normally attended to when they stayed up later than their parents were the curtains and the doors were unlocked.
Oh.
So
now
boy,
she's
no.
really irritated.
Mom's pissed at this point. I would be too, to be fair.
Oh yeah,
If I lived in the middle of nowhere and the doors weren't locked, absolutely not. That's a horror movie. That's the beginning of a horror movie, which this...
Right.
I can't say much. I lived in the middle of like BFE, and we didn't really lock the doors.
Yeah.
But I also had like 5 dogs.
To be fair, I too lived in the middle of BFE, and I lived on a farm, but...
We also didn't live in Appalachia. I lived in Florida. The only thing I had to worry about coming into my house were gators.
Right, and they didn't have opposable thumbs, so...
Oh no, like they could still figure out a way to open up doors.
Don't tell me that. I'm supposed to be visiting you next year. Do not tell me that.
Well, it depends. It depends. What kind of handles do you have? Oh.
Dirt road. Add some extra syllables. The PNs.
Tuck that shit back in. It's coming out.
Be a drag queen. Tuck it all the way in and use some duct tape, honey. Jesus. So Marion had fallen asleep on the living room couch, which is the oldest daughter, right? So Jeannie had assumed that all the other children who had stayed up later had gone back to the attic where they actually slept. Which, you know, West Virginia doesn't really get too cold at this time of year. It's December, but still, it was still insulated.
Right. And
So,
also back then they would have the grates in the floor so that way the heat could
rise.
go up.
Yep. So Jeannie closed the curtains, turned off the lights, locked the doors, and went to bed. I know y'all see problems with this. I'm just going to keep going because we all know what's going to happen next. At 1 a.m.
No, what she should have done is woke her husband up, tell her the kids didn't do their shit. We need to go clear this house kind of thing.
Right.
And make sure nobody snuck in.
Right.
Check on the kids in bed, and then go around turning off the lights and closing the curtains.
Yep. That's exactly what you do. But
hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. Always. So 1 a.m. Jeannie was awakened by the sound of an object hitting the house's roof with a loud bang and then a rolling noise. So after hearing nothing further, she didn't hear any stuff going on outside. She went back to sleep.
It's the cryptids.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm glad Em and I's brain went the same way.
I was about to say, I'm sorry. I would not.
You would not?
That. I would not ignore that. And then she mentioned the cryptids, and I was like, yeah, that's probably like a normal Tuesday.
Well, and especially if like there's tree branches over top of like their roof. Like, how do you know it's not like the animal's fucking off and knock something off?
Right. You don't.
Random branch fell and then rolled down. Like,
you don't know that that's what happened.
What I'm not going to do is go outside and take a look.
That's how you die. Look,
exactly.
We talked
That's
about
how you
this.
Get got.
That's how you get got. We talked about this on several occasions. Do you know who would do that?
White man.
A white man.
A white man.
No! So she hears something outside. She goes back to sleep. She's thinking it's fine. Wakes up about a half hour later. She smelled smoke. When she got up, she found out that the room that George used for his office was on fire around the telephone line and the fuse box. Calling out for her husband and children to get out, she scrambled to get the kids and get out herself. 2 of their sons and 1 of their daughters, the one who was the youngest, the baby, one of the youngest ones who had the baby, they were able to make it outside. So 4 of their kids made it out. Jeannie yelled out for her husband, George, who realized that their other children, Maurice, Martha, Louise, Jenny, and Betty, were missing. Both parents and 4 children, Marion, Sylvia, John, and George Jr., escaped the house. So, of course, they frantically yelled up to the children upstairs, but heard no response. They could not go up there because the stairway was already engulfed. John had told the police in his first interview after the fire that he went up to the attic to alert his siblings sleeping there, though he later changed his story to say that he only called up there and did not actually see them.
None of these things just doesn't belong here.
That's
None of these things just isn't the same.
being lied about it. It's being lied about it. George looked for a ladder, which is normally kept on the side of the house, so he could climb up to their bedroom window.
But okay.
Huh?
It's a weird place to keep it, but okay.
Well, I mean, you have to remember it's a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And normally,
I still would have kept it in the shed or the barn. Like,
normally, these houses didn't have a shed. They had a chicken
but they have
coop
a barn.
and a barn. Yeah, so
Could have kept it in the barn.
could have, but probably didn't.
Coulda, shoulda, wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. So, ladder was missing. Not on the side of the house. George was barefoot, and he attempted to climb the house's outside wall and broke open a window, cutting his arm in the process. So he and his sons had intended to use a ladder to the attic to rescue the other children, but it was not in the resting place against the house and could not be found nearby. He checked the barn, thinking there's a barn. He checked the surrounding area, and he checked his cars. He had 2 trucks there. The water barrel that could have been used to extinguish the fire was frozen solid, so he couldn't use that. He then tried to pull both the trucks up that he had used in his business to the house and use them to climb to the attic window. None of them would start, though. But they worked the previous day. Mm-hmm. So, something fishy. Something's up. By this point, he's run around amok, trying to get back into the house. The house was entirely engulfed in flames. And this was before modern fire techniques were established. So they would have to get, like, people with buckets and stuff like that to... Because it was a small town. They didn't have stuff like this, you know?
Right. And also, by the time people got from town to the farmhouse, there's no telling how out of control it could be.
Well, efforts to find aid and rescue the children were complicated. Expected that. The phone didn't work, so Marion had to run to the neighbor's house to call the Fayetteville Fire Department. A driver on a nearby road had also seen the flames and called from a nearby tavern. They too were unsuccessful either because they could not reach the operator because the phone there at the Operation Central turned out to be broken.
It just happened to break after she received these prank calls.
Right, so everything's kind of lining up, right?
It's like when the Special Kellogg's group would burn stuff down. All of a sudden, help couldn't be found. Nobody wanted to help.
Right. Well, the reason why Emily loves this case so much is because of the conspiracy factor, which I did put all that information in here, so we'll get to that in a second. So, either the neighbor...
Girls have some conspiracy theories.
Listen, her and Holly, the 2 of them, were over at my house helping me pack, and they went on a conspiracy theory rant for 3 hours. And I'm like, listen,
Love it.
guys, come on. So, either the neighbor or the passing motorist was eventually successful in reaching the fire department from another phone in the center of town. So, about this, we're going to break it up into a few points. Marion sprinted to the neighbor's home to call the fire department. The neighbor who saw the blaze made a call from a nearby tavern, but no operator responded. Exasperated, the neighbor drove into town and tracked down the fire chief, F.J. Morris, who initiated Fayetteville's version of a fire alarm, a phone tree system where one firefighter phoned another and another and another and another and so on.
But you can't do that if the phone system isn't working.
Right. So the fire department was only 2.5 miles away, but the crew didn't arrive until 8 a.m. It started at 1.
Yeah, it took like 7 hours.
At which point...
You think they would have a backup plan for if the phone system went down?
Well,
You would assume.
you would assume.
Like clanging of a bell, something.
There wasn't anything. So the fire department was not even there until the home had been reduced to a pile of ash.
Of course.
So, quote, longtime Fayetteville firefighter was asked about this in 2016. His name was Steve Cruikshank. Yes, like the cat from Harry Potter. Back then, there was very little training. Everyone was a volunteer, and they didn't even have much equipment. So, it took only 45 minutes after the fire started to burn the house down to the studs. Also, fun fact, getting a house to the studs means taking it down to the original floor plan, which is the foundation. The more you know, shooting star. So, frustrated, the remaining 6 Sodders that were alive had no choice but to watch the house burn and collapse over 45 minutes.
With everything inside.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, they assumed the other 5 children had perished in the fire. The fire department, low on manpower due to the war, had and not relying on individual firefighters to call each other, did not respond until later that morning, which we talked about.
At which point it was pointless.
Right. The chief said the next day that that the already slow response was further hampered by his inability to drive the fire truck, requiring that he wait for someone who could drive him to the house.
I feel like all of them should have known how to drive it just in case the one person that knew was sick.
Mm-hmm. You would think.
You would think of all these things. But
right. Doesn't work out the way that we want.
Nope.
The local fire department initially stated that the fire started due to faulty wiring.
I call bullshit.
What did we talk about at the beginning?
They had rewired the house.
They had rewired the house. This is where the conspiracies start to pop up. Some reports stated that they couldn't find any trace of the children's remains in the ashes. However, other reports state that some bone fragments and possible human organs were located. Emily knows this is fake because when humans are... Bless you. When you're welcome. I saw you do
that was a sneeze.
because you did the arm thing. When I get excited, I do autistic arms. When you have to sneeze, you do autistic arms.
I do inverted, not exverted.
Yes.
Exverted? Is that the word?
Yeah, I assume.
Close enough.
Close enough. Good enough for government work, as my husband says. So,
that's not saying much, though.
Guys. Total side note. Look at how pretty this is.
It's
Oh, that
beautiful.
is pretty.
I like it. So, as everybody knows who's done any research for morbidity, when you heat up a body to the amount that it takes to cremate remains, it's 3,500 degrees or more. Emily's the one who told me this. Did I want to know? No. She just went down a rabbit hole one night and didn't stop. So
why crematoriums have to have the heat up so high.
Yep. So when the bodies were stating that they couldn't even, they found some possible human organs, I don't think it was human organs. It might have been animal organs because humans have to reach a certain flashpoint in order to burn the whole body and eviscerate it.
Unless there's how can I put this? A high fat content.
In which case, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it, like, the things I've rabbit holed
Oh yeah, the spontaneous combustion we talked about for like 3 hours that one night.
Yes.
Did I want to? No, but it was fascinating to find out all that information.
It was.
So,
Slightly disturbing.
one of the remains was analyzed. The organs were found out to be cow liver. There was a cow in the house. It's a cow farm.
Cow farm.
There's gonna be cows outside.
I can just imagine this cow not even actively in the house when it started. It's just like, oh, what's this? And walks into the fire.
Just
And up the stairs.
moseying along. Listen, cows can get upstairs, they cannot get down.
Right. Because their knees don't bend that way.
Correct. So the fighters, who one of them was a brother of Jeannie's, could do little but look through the ash to find out what was going on, and looked in the Sodder's basement. By 10 a.m., Morris told the Sodders that they had not found any bones, and they don't think...
I think he looked in the basement hoping that maybe the kids might have gotten down there
Mhm.
and hoping for a safe place, and
Didn't.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, according to another account, they did find a few bone fragments and internal organs, but chose not to tell the family. It has also been noted, modern fire professionals, that their search was cursory at best. So they didn't even remove items. They just kind of poked. Like normally when they're looking for survivors, they pull up stuff and they actually look underneath it.
Well, the family was already on sorts with most of the people in the town, so they're just like, we're just going to give a surface level look, so that way we can go, well, we did our best.
I mean...
Or we did our job, we looked.
A for effort.
Mm.
F for execution.
Oh.
I mean, I can't say much. Okay, as a firefighter, as someone who was a volunteer firefighter, hello, that is me. I am a jack of all trades. It does take a lot. Like, you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
And even especially back then, there was even less to know. Because this, basically how you became a volunteer firefighter is you walked up to the fire department and you're like, hey, I want to help people. And they're like, cool, here's a badge.
Right.
And
don't
also,
die.
Don't have modern technology and inventions that we do, and devices that we do now.
But at the same time, if you've got one or two people on the fire department or on the volunteer force that are like, hey man, fuck that guy, that could
sway people's opinions.
Exactly.
Right.
So, I mean, I say we contact the dead and ask them what they did.
No. No, children, no eyeballs. No thanks.
No, I'm not saying the children. I'm saying the adults.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Man, fuck them kids.
Fuck them kids.
As someone who worked with kids, fuck them kids.
So, Morris told George that he couldn't lie, excuse me, backtrack. Morris believed that 5 children unaccounted had died in the fire, suggesting it had been hot enough to burn the bodies completely. As we talked about before, that's not the... Emily, you want to look up the burning point? So, Morris told George to leave the site undisturbed so that the state fire marshals could conduct a more thorough investigation.
The hottest. During a full house fire, temperatures can get up to 2,000 degrees.
So not even
water.
Not even the hottest point in order to burn a body.
And that is taken directly from an insurance website.
So, if I remember you telling me correctly, the crematoriums have to be, I think, about 5,000 degrees in order to burn the body completely, I think.
Oh, they changed it.
Okay, what is it?
It is now between 14 and 18.
2,000?
Here we go. Okay.
I'm like hundreds, thousands. What are we talking?
Yeah.
No, just 14 and 18 degrees. Crematoriums typically burn at temperatures between 1,400 and 2,000 degrees. However, it is fueled by gas, propane, or diesel.
Oh.
Yeah, incendiaries.
Right.
So you need that fuel
Mm-hmm.
to help keep
get
it going.
started.
Because house fires, you're outside, so it ranges, right? So it could be 2,000, we'll say 2,000 degrees on the top floor, and then what is it called? Wind can hit it, and it drops
Mm-hmm.
to 1,200.
Right.
In a crematorium, that's a confined space. That is, it's going to be 2,000 for like 4 hours.
Right. And it's surrounded by
Perfect
heating
scenario.
stones. Right?
Yeah. Which is how you get the ash with the little fragments. A house fire burning at the rate of a crematorium for anywhere between 2 to 7 hours, enough to char and completely, dustify, Thanos snap a family,
Testify.
does not compute.
Listen.
It doesn't make sense because that's not a controlled environment.
Right.
Crematoriums are a controlled environment, which is how you get that. A house fire is not a controlled environment.
It's not. So I got a lot more pages. So after 4 days, George and his wife could not bear the sight of looking at their home anymore. So he bulldozed 5 feet, 1.5 meters of dirt over the site with the intention of converting it into a memorial garden for his lost children.
I mean, I don't blame him.
Right. So the Sodders had other theories than them burning up in the fire. Because of course they did. He hated Mussolini. He hated Italian government, period. He hated government, period.
Emily.
Stop.
I'm not wrong.
She said at least it's not a playground and it's a garden. Stop.
Okay, but like there are people that will do that.
I mean, that's valid.
There are white people. There are mayo-colored people out there that will do that.
It's true.
Male-colored people.
It's true. No, it's true. So here are some theories. You ready? George and his wife suspected arson, leading to theories that the children had been taken by the Sicilian Mafia, perhaps in retaliation of George's outspoken criticism of the fascist government of his native homeland of Italy. Remember this for later. Stick a pin in that.
We'll stick a pin in it, but I feel like the Mafia has better things to do than go into the middle of BFE and steal kids and light a house on fire.
Hold that thought.
I mean, depends on the person that they're going after, though.
Hold that thought. The local coroner convened an inquest the next day, which held that the fire was caused by faulty wiring, which we talked about before. Among the jurors was a man who had threatened George that his house would be burned down and his children would be destroyed in retribution for his anti-Mussolini remarks. They stated that the missing children, all 5 of them, had perished in the fire. This is what we talked about. After and against the words of the fire marshal, George plowed the remains of the home and planted flowers in memory of the kids. So not even 5 days later, December 30th, George got death certificates for the 5 children. The local newspaper contradicted itself, stating that all the bodies had been found, but later in the same story reporting that only part of one body was discovered. George and Jeannie were too grief-stricken to attend the funeral on January 2nd, but their surviving children went in their stead. You're not muted.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm like,
I'm doing my best to like eat. That's why I got like soft stuff. My bad.
oh, you're
Oh.
fine. No, I was talking to
You were
Rachel.
muted.
Every time she's coughed or everything, so I got to go back and I got to cut those
Oh.
out.
I've tried to mute myself, but sometimes it's a sneak attack.
No, you're fine.
It's a sneak attack. It comes up like a ninja.
It does.
That's how it did for me when I was laughing the other day. Jesus Christ. So, remember the ladder we talked about? The one that you said shouldn't have been on the side of the house? Not long after the fire, as they began to rebuild their lives, the Sodder family started to question all the official findings about the fire. They wondered why, if it had been caused by an electrical problem, the family's Christmas lights had remained on throughout the fire's early stages, when the power should have gone out if it was faulty wiring. Furthermore, they found the ladder that had been missing from the side of the house the night of the fire at the bottom of an embankment 75 feet away, which is 23 meters for all those people in the east.
That's pretty fucking far.
Mm-hmm. But wait,
That's not where I fucking
There's
left it,
more!
George.
there's more!
Tell us what else is there, Billy Mays.
Well, the telephone repairman told the Sodders that the house's phone line had not been burned through in the fire, as they initially had thought, but someone had been willing to climb 14 feet or 4.3 meters up the telephone pole to reach 2 feet away and stole the block.
They didn't cut it?
Mm-mm.
It would have been easier just to cut it.
Right!
Like, come on, man.
A man had
Sip
spoken.
it, bitch.
A man had spoken up later, stating that he had seen a man stealing a block and tackle from the property around the time the fire was identified and arrested. He admitted to the theft and claimed he had been the one who had cut the original phone line and thinking about the power line, but denied anything to do with the fire. So the block that was up top, that's the central hub. So he still cut the line and then took the box.
That's a little overkill, but okay. Could've
Just in case
cut
they
it.
managed to, like, duct tape it back together.
Who
Could
knows?
have cut it and like frayed the end so that way if somebody came looking, oh, an animal ate through it.
Right. You would think. That'd be smart. Well, this is not a play-by-play, guys. This is not telling you how to commit these crimes.
These are just
Yeah, you do
thoughts.
whatever the fuck you
Hypothetical
want.
thoughts.
You do whatever the fuck you want.
This is America.
Hypothetical thoughts.
I want to
That's
live.
healthy.
These are just thoughts. So, however, Emily, this is your favorite part of any story that involves conspiracies, is the government. There is no record of identifying the said suspect who exists. Why he would have wanted to cut the utility lines and the power lines, as well as the phone lines, to the Sodder house while stealing the block and the subsequent tackle. Nothing has ever been explained, nor was his name notated.
See, okay, that does not scream mafia to me. That screams the United States government.
Right.
Again, the mafia has better things to do. The U.S. government does not.
Also, the mafia knows how to cover their fucking tracks.
The mafia wouldn't get caught in this shitty little scheme.
Also true.
Hold that
The
thought.
Italian, especially the Italians.
Listen, as somebody who grew up with Italians, because my grandfather was Italian, you don't ask questions.
I'm not asking questions. I'm not kink shaming. I'm kink.
Questioning why.
There was a weekend that I went to go do my laundry at my grandmother's house, because you guys remember when I was homeless.
Mhm.
My grandfather was still alive at this point. I would go to her house on Sundays. And she goes, can you come on Saturday? Because Sunday we're having something looked at. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'll go on Saturday. So Saturday rolls around. I pull up in my little hoopty, get out of the car, do my laundry, throw it in, walk inside, because you never knocked at Grandma and Grandpa's house. We didn't have to.
You just walk in and go, hey, I'm here, abuela.
I'm like, abuelo, I'm home. There is a round table of good fellas sitting in the kitchen. And I just
Probably
go,
should have knocked.
Hi.
What did I just walk into?
And Abuela goes, oh, mija, you're here. Let's go sit outside. It's a nice day. It really was. It was like 72. It was perfect. It wasn't too windy. It was like,
But it was one of those you never
We're
wanted me
going
to sit
outside.
outside.
right.
Why are you inviting me outside today of all days?
There are
you always
three-
want me inside.
There are 3 days of the year we would sit outside in the back patio to eat. Grandpa's birthday, which was in September. Grandma's birthday, which was in June or July. I can't remember. It's been so long. Easter Sunday and Mother's Day. Those were the only days. Father's Day was always at Uncle Walt's. So we would never sit in the backyard. And so I was like, she goes, and I made you your favorite. And she took out my favorite soda. And I went, what did
Blink
I?
twice
Why-
if you need help.
Why am I being bribed?
And then she grabbed pudding packs from the outside freezer. And I was like,
Not the outside freezer.
yes, the outside freezer. So, of course, you know, I mean, you didn't ask any questions, but I went inside and one of the guys was like, hey, you're good at math. Can you figure this out? I went, yeah, sure, I can figure it out. And I did the mathematics in my head and I wrote down the number and he goes, great, you're good. Go back outside. Okay,
Aye.
Yes, sir.
whatever you say. Listen, I never question it. I never question it and I never will. I don't care. So,
You're not questioning it now. You're just looking back fondly on the, oh my God, that actually happened.
yes, it did. And on that note,
Some things make sense.
I have to run to the restroom.
You go to the restroom. Rachel, did I ever tell you of the time I am 90% sure I ran into the Russian mafia in West Virginia?
No.
Okay, so fun fact.
Should we be talking about this?
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. It's hilarious.
Okay.
So for Christmas, my husband's mom invited us to West Virginia to spend the day with her.
Right.
So we go down on like a Friday, I think it was, and we stay in a hotel. And my family, it wasn't a Friday. Whatever. We go down on Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve.
Right.
And we get in the hotel, and the next morning, I was always taught you dress up for Christmas and Christmas Eve.
Right.
So I'm in a suit. I'm in a nice suit. Granted, it's a Forever 21 suit.
Eh.
It's a nice suit because I am broke.
Right.
And I'm up before everyone else, you know. And so I walk down and I hit the breakfast, and there's 3 men, big dudes, sitting at a table, and they're all speaking Russian. And I'm like, oh, great.
Okay.
I grab my shit and I sit down and I start eating. And I compliment one guy's. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you exactly how this went. Because I was 90% sure that these guys were in the Russian mafia.
who?
Remember when I told you I was pretty sure I met the Russian mafia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling that story.
Oh.
So we're sitting, and I guess we just start chatting because I had gotten a phone call,
Mm-hmm.
and they heard me just like shit talking
Mm-hmm.
on this dude,
As one does.
Mm-hmm.
as one does, and oh my God, where did I put it?
Where it belonged? I don't know.
I can spell.
Are we sure?
No.
I mean, I'm pretty sure my next door neighbors were Russian mafia when I was living in San Jose.
Okay, here it is. I think I just had breakfast with the Morgantown Mafia, or at least people from the Russian mob. I talked to them. Oh, okay. He asked what I did for work, and I said I worked in a hospital, but I also do volunteer medical work. And he was like, medic? Like stitches and stuff? And I laughed and I said, I mean, not legally, but like, I know how to get it done for a fee. Why do you need a favor? And that made big 3. I'm reading directly. That made big 3 big Russian men laugh. It was terrifying. And we just started, discussing family, work, Christmas plans, and then we got onto clothing. And he asked where I got my outfit, and I very haphazardly told him the men's section at H&M, and the shirt was from Forever 21. And I asked him about his, and he chuckled at me, looked at me, and said, "I don't think you can afford it, dear." I was offended and burned in one sentence.
Oh, man.
He did say if I ever made it to Italy to visit a suit shop there,
Ooh.
and to hold on to the name he gave me. He said this is where he gets his tailored suits.
Very nice.
It's called Laney
Okay.
or Lanari.
Lunari?
And one suit there, just
It's
for
probably
like the
mint.
top, the top and bottom tailored to fit, is $1,500
Yeah.
US or euros?
US.
US. My grandfather had 3 Italian suits. He had a brown tweed suit and like a tweed jacket and regular pants, linen pants. He had a black one and a blue
Which
one.
was more
Common.
So the tweed and linen pants were more everyday, and then the other 2 were more special occasion suits.
Yep. And so he would switch out between his suit coats, and I got really good at washing my grandfather's suit coats because I knew, what is Fluffy doing?
I don't know, but that's not pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Italian suit coats are very, very expensive.
But they're so nice.
They're
Especially
so
tailored
soft.
correctly. Ooh.
Ugh.
But yeah, no, we chatted for a while over breakfast, and I went to leave because I got a call that everyone else was awake, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta go." And he went, "Okay, if you ever need anything, just know we are here." And I'm like, "Okay."
Oh boy.
I never want to run into you again in a dark or a lit alley.
Right.
So that is the time I'm 90% sure I ran into the Russian Mafia.
I mean, my downstairs neighbors, you remember the apartment I used to live into with my ex, the one that, they were Russian. And every time they would have a party, they would let me know ahead of time, and they would be like, "Let us know if you have work the next day. We'll cut off the sound." Okay, cool. And that's who I had my 21st birthday with when I went and saw Gabriel Iglesias.
He let out a new special.
I saw, and he did talk about the Woo Girl, which if everybody doesn't know, that's me. I was the Woo Girl at his first show in San Jose who gave him the shots of vodka and the shots of tequila and gave him a giant chocolate cake. I couldn't
Much to your own dismay.
I couldn't eat the whole cake to myself, and I don't remember anything from that night. But anyways.
Well, now you are famous.
I am infamous, and I don't want to be. So, she had, okay, so, we talked about how the family had been told that all the bodies had been burned in the fire.
Yes.
Many of the house appliances had been found still recognizable, even though it had slight fire damage.
Because the fire wasn't that hot in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Along with fragments of the tin roof, Emily, how hot again does it have to be to melt metal?
Pretty fucking hot.
Yeah. Yeah. What type of metal?
Tin.
Tin?
Mm-hmm.
It's gotta be
And that's continuous heat.
continuous heat.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, just regular old tin.
Yeah.
232. Continuous.
Continuous, and that's like localized.
Yeah. 232 Celsius or 450 Fahrenheit.
There's no way in that house fire that the tin roof would have survived if it burned the children's bones to ash,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
She took the results of the fire with a newspaper account of a similar house fire that she had read around the same time that killed a family of 7. Skeletal remains of all the victims were reportedly found in that case. They weren't burned to ash, they were found. Jeannie burned small pile of animal bones to see if they would be completely consumed. Fact, none ever were. The employee of a local crematorium she had contacted told her about human bones remain after bodies are burned at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours, far longer and hotter than any house fire could ever get. The Sodder's truck's failure to start was also considered. George believed that they had been tampered with, perhaps by the same man who stole the block and tackle box and cut the phone line. However, one of George's son-in-laws told the Charleston Gazette-Mail in 2013 that he had come to believe that Sodder and his sons might have, in haste to start the trucks, flooded the engines. Which could be a possibility. However, some accounts have suggested that the wrong phone call to the Sodder house might have also somehow been connected to the fire. However, investigators later located the woman who made the call. She confirmed it was a wrong number dial on her part.
But was it, though?
Well, within months of the children's deaths, or the children's missing, George and Jeannie decided that they had not been killed by the flames, but had instead been kidnapped, and the fire was deliberately set to cover the crimes. Which seems more likely of a scenario. The telephone line had been cut sometime before or after the fire. Spring of 46, the Sodders, as they had said they would, planted flowers in the soil of the bulldozed over house. Jeannie tended it carefully for the rest of her life. However, developments in early 1946 reinforced the family's belief that the children were somewhere alive. Evidence soon emerged indicating that the fire had not been started in electrical fault, but was instead set deliberately. The driver of a bus that had passed through Fayetteville late Christmas Eve said he had seen some people throwing balls of fire at the house. Remember, she had woken up at 1 a.m. and heard things on the roof?
Great balls of fire.
Great balls of fire. Oh my God, I think I just found the title of the episode. The Mafia and Great Balls of Fire. So, a few months later, when the snow had melted, Sylvia found a small, hard, dark green, rubber-like object in the brush nearby. George, recalling his wife's account of the loud thump on the roof before the fire, said it looked like a, quote, pineapple bomb, a hand grenade, or some other incendiary device used in combat.
Molotov.
Well, no. Honey, is there such a thing as a pineapple bomb?
Never heard of it.
I mean, grenades kind of look like
I mean,
pineapples?
technically, yes. There's a shot.
Right. So,
But an MK2 grenade.
looks like a pineapple. It does.
Yeah.
So the family later claimed that, contrary to the fire marshal's conclusion, the fire had started on the roof, although there was no way to actually prove it because the roof's gone. So is the whole house because it's gone now.
However, a MK2 pineapple is a fragmentation grenade.
Oh.
So it is a grenade that is meant for shrapnel.
And it was used by U.S. military during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a little bit more believable, at least in my opinion.
But it is the first shrapnel grenade. The American pineapple grenade originated as in the first modern shrapnel grenade, the English 1915 Mills bomb.
Oh.
The 34 million Mills bombs were used in World War One.
Okay. Which was right before.
So right in between.
Yeah. It was right around there.
Yep.
So
It's plausible.
It is plausible.
Meat, grease, and fat were converted into glycerin to be used for the explosives.
Tallow, yeah. I can see that. So, Emily loves a good sight scene in missing persons cases. Witnesses reported seeing sightings of the children in the area. Oh my god! All I see is eyeballs and nose, just like.
I just look up from scrolling, and I just see Em just like zoomed in on the camera.
What did I tell you? She loves missing persons cases. She just eats them up for breakfast, you know? So they found the children in the area shortly after they had supposedly died, claiming to have seen the missing Sodder children themselves. One woman who had been watching the fire from the road said that she had seen some of them peering out of a passing car while the house was burning. Another woman at a rest stop between Fayetteville and Charleston had said she had served them breakfast the next morning and noted the presence of a car with Florida license plates in the rest stop's parking lot as well.
Damn it, Florida!
What's crazy, though, is license plates were still a new thing then.
Yeah. And the Sodders decided to hire a private investigator named C.C. Tinsley from the town nearby, Gully Bridge, to take a look into the case.
C.C. Tinsley kind of reminds me of that dude that stole the airplane and a whole bunch of money and then disappeared.
Right. That's not his name.
No. Cooper was his name.
Yeah, D.B. Cooper.
Yeah, but like, you see what I mean?
That's solid.
Stop dying, Rachel!
Can't help it.
I know. I'm sorry. So, Tinsley informed the family that the insurance salesman who had threatened George over his anti-Mussolini sentiments had been on the coroner's jury that ruled the fire an accident. He also learned of rumors around Fayetteville that despite his report to the Sodders that no remains had been found in the ashes, Morris found a heart, which he later packed into a metal box and secretly buried. But remember, there was a cow liver.
Hold on, is my mute working?
I don't know.
Do the thing where you're like,
Okay, this is not muted. This is muted.
Nope. I can hear you.
So you can hear me right now.
Yeah, use the button on your thing.
I am!
On your box? Or on your computer?
Yes! What the fuck?
Jesus.
It's a day.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a problem for another day.
Yeah, we'll deal with it later. So, more
temperature at which human organs burn is between 111.2 Fahrenheit and 158 Fahrenheit.
Okay, that was random, but yeah.
Well, because she said that he found a heart.
Right.
Yep.
But no, my mute button not working is a problem for tomorrow, Rachel, not today, Rachel.
We don't. I love you. I just got the message on Facebook. Is mute not working? I just got it. Oh my God.
It's so annoying.
So, Morris had apparently confessed this to his local minister, who in turn confirmed it to George. So George and Cece went to Morris and confronted him with the news. Morris agreed to show the two where he had buried the metal box and dug it up. They took what they found inside the box to a local funeral director, who, after examining it, told them it was in reality, fresh beef liver and had never been exposed to fire.
How do you fuck up? A human heart and a beef liver do not look the same.
Did your sister just text what I think she just texted?
Uh-huh.
People, do not take ivermectin. That is a horse dewormer. That is how you die.
Unless you want to help thin out the gene, or strengthen the gene pool, then in that case,
Have
They
at
were
it.
in their 50s, so they've already reprocreated.
So later, more rumors circulated around Fayetteville that Morris had afterwards admitted the box with the liver had indeed not come from the fire originally. He had supposedly placed it there in hope that the Sodders would find it and be satisfied that the missing children were indeed dead in the fire.
dick move.
Excuse me.
You're fine. On one occasion, George saw a magazine photo of a group of young ballet dancers in New York City. One of them looked like his missing daughter, Betty.
I'm so sad.
He drove all the way to the girl's school where his repeated demands to see the girl himself were refused. He also tried to...
that's a good school, though.
That is a very good school. He also tried to interest the FBI in investigating what he considered was a kidnapping. J. Edgar Hoover, who was then the FBI director, personally responded to his letters. Quote, although I would like to be of service, the matter related appears to be of local character and does not come within the investigative jurisdiction of this Bureau. If the local authorities had requested the Bureau's assistance, on the other hand, he would have, of course, directed agents to assist them. But the Fayetteville Police and Fire Department declined to do so, stating it wasn't necessary. George and Jeannie tried to get the case reopened, but to no avail. The police department refused to investigate because they had believed that no crime had been committed. In August of 1949, George was able to persuade Oscar Hunter, a Washington, D.C. pathologist, to supervise a new search through the dirt at the house site. After a very thorough search, artifacts including a dictionary that had belonged to the children and some coins were found. Only 4 pieces of vertebrae were discovered, along with 2 small bones that were possibly from a child's hands. As the fragments were unearthed, they determined to have human vertebrae. The bone fragments were sent to Marshall T. Newman, a specialist in the Smithsonian. However, due to location of the bones that were found in the family's home floor pans, George did not believe they were from his son. They were confirmed to be lumbar vertebrae and all from the same person. Since the transverse recesses are fused, the age of this individual at death should have been 16 or 17. The top limit of age should be about 22, since the centra, which normally fuses at 23, are still unfused. Because of this age range, it was not very likely that these bones were from any of the 5 missing children, since the oldest, Maurice, who had been 14 at the time, was outside. Newman added that the bones showed no sign of exposure to flame. Further, he agreed that it was very strange that these bones were the only ones found, since the wood fire of such short duration should have left full skeletons of all children left behind. I too, Rachel, am salty and spiraling at the same time as curly fries.
Same. Is that... Wait. That reminds me. What should we name our listeners?
Oh, we already named them ages ago. Party possums.
Party possums.
Yep, party possums.
Fuck yeah. I miss potatoes.
Hey, that was muted. Hey!
Hey!
Now you're just completely...
Yeah, I can't hear you. She is having a crisis. Have you tried hitting it with a hammer?
Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again?
Now?
There we go.
Now I can hear you, yeah. Mute it.
What about now?
We can hear you.
Son of a bitch! Ah!
Oh, man, this is a great episode. I love it. It's wonderful. So...
You're going to have great sound clips from this episode.
Listen, I'm excited. So, he found it very strange that the bones were the only ones found, since a wood fire of such short duration should have left full skeleton remains, right? So the
That's
pathologist
what I'm saying.
believed that the bone that were found were from a 14 or 15-year-old, which would have been the oldest son, Maurice, which we talked about. The report concluded that the vertebrae had instead most likely come from the dirt that George had used to bulldoze onto the site.
That's weird.
Remember that local farmer who's getting rid of pay dirt?
I beg your finest pardon.
As our lovely Nurse John says. We love Nurse John. Later, C.C. Tinsley supposedly confirmed that the bone fragments had come from a cemetery in nearby Mount Hope, but could not explain why they were taken from there or how they were at the fire site. The Smithsonian returned the bone fragments to George in September of 49. According to its records, their current location is unknown. Another analysis conducted many years later determined that the bones were in fact of a 16 to 22-year-old instead. Odd fact noted, the bones had no sign of fire damage. We talked about this.
That's
There
not
would be signs.
So it was suggested that they were planted at the site from the nearby cemetery instead, i.e. body snatching, and there was no actual evidence to support the theory other than the bones not having fire damage. So they think the person who took the kids came back with the bone fragments.
So he returned to the scene of the crime.
Most serials do, if it was a serial arsonist. But again, at the end, we're almost there. We're nearly there. The investigation and its findings attracted national attention, and the West Virginia legislature had held 2 hearings on the case in 1950. Afterwards, Governor O.K. Pattinson, O.K. is his name. O.K.E.Y.
So like
Okie?
O period K period?
No, it's O.K.E.Y. So would it be Okie or OK?
Okie.
I'm just going to keep calling him OK.
I'm gonna call him okay.
Governor
He's dead,
OK.
fine.
Governor OK.
Most likely it was pronounced Okie though, but
Still.
Was he racist? Because
Probably.
we don't
I
care about the opinions of racists in this house.
that's valid.
That's valid. So, the governor and state police superintendent W.E. Burchett told the Sodders the case was hopeless and closed it at the state level. The FBI, however, decided it had jurisdiction as a possible interstate kidnapping, but dropped the case after 2 years of following fruitless leads.
I'm telling you,
Right.
they had their hands in the cookie jar.
With the end of official efforts to resolve the case, the Sodder family did not give up hope. They had flyers printed up with the pictures of children offering a $5,000 reward.
Which back in the day... Hold on. What year was this?
1920s.
Okay. Money... Inflation. Okay. You said it was $5,000?
Yep.
Wake up. Wake up.
I am
Like,
awake.
I am awake.
No, my computer.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Didn't specify though. You were just doing the fingers at us. So I'm like, we are awake. At least
Okay.
as awake as we can be.
So we'll say 1920 to today. $5,000. Damn! In today's money,
Give it to me good.
$5,000 is $79,417.75.
Ma'am! That is a chunk of change.
That's a new car.
That is a down payment on a Bentley.
Not the Bentley.
Not the Bentley. So it was soon doubled from 5,000 to 10,000. For information, that would have settled the case for even one child.
For $10,000, that is $158,835.50. That is a new house, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
That is a new house where like your monthly payment, like your monthly mortgage on that house is like $800.
Right. I hurt my feelings yesterday. I saw a reel about Taco Bell, and the original prices of a tostada was 59 cents.
Oh, you know what Taco Bell needs to bring back?
The cheesy gordita crunch.
Well, that, but also those chicken crispinadas that they only had for like a month.
Listen, I agree. So, that being said, in 1952, they put up a billboard at the site of the house. Let me get to it. I do have the picture for your enjoyment. It's kind of sad. It's very sad. So, this is a picture of the billboard, and this is what ran in the newspaper. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and talk? No.
Yep, I remember hearing
I'm
about
sorry.
this.
I do too.
Like,
Fuck this shit.
Fuck this shit, I quit.
I'm out. I'm out the fuck, just tapping, but I don't really care. I'm gonna get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
So, of course, they put up this billboard in front of the house along Route 60, and it would be in time for the landmark traffic through Fayetteville on U.S. Route 19. The family's efforts soon brought another reported sighting of the children after the fire. Ida Crutchfield, a woman who ran a Charleston, West Virginia hotel, claimed to have seen the children approximately a week after they had supposedly died.
It's always the week after.
Right. It's not like the day of or the day after.
Woo, forgot how to breathe.
Please keep breathing.
Right. Why are you doing that to yourself?
So you have fresh material?
Oh, well. Okay. So she had stated, I do not remember the exact state at all. Not state, date. The children had come in around midnight with 2 men and 2 women. All appeared to be of Italian extinct. It says
Extinct?
It says extraction, but I think she meant indication.
Extraction?
But I'm curious at how she determined that they were Italian. Like,
I mean, Italian?
because they were
could be Mexican.
dark-haired, slightly dark complexioned, dark eyes. Like,
They could be
okay.
Mexican.
They could be Mexican. So
They could be Spanish.
They could. When she attempted to speak with the children, one of the men looked at me in a hostile manner. He turned around and began talking rapidly in Italian. Immediately, the whole party stopped talking to me. She recalled that they left the hotel early the next morning. Investigators today do not, however, consider her story credible, as she had only first seen the photos of the children 2 years after the fire, 5 years before she came forward. George followed up on all leads in person. He traveled to the areas where all of the tips had come from. A woman from St. Louis, Missouri claimed Martha was being held at a convent there. A bar patron in Texas claimed to have overheard 2 other people making incriminating statements about a fire that had happened in Christmas Eve in West Virginia. Neither of those proved significant.
That just breaks my heart as a parent.
Oh, it's worse.
It gets
why does it
worse.
always have to get worse?
I told you that's my stories. So when George later heard that a relative of Jeannie's in Florida had children that looked similar to his, the relative had to prove the children were his own before George was ever satisfied.
Oh.
In 1967, George went to Houston to investigate another tip. A woman had written to the family stating that Luis had traveled, stating that he had revealed his true identity to her one night after having too much to drink. She believed that he and Maurice were both living in Texas somewhere. However, George and his son-in-law, Grover Paxton, were unable to speak with her. Police there were able to find the two men she had indicated, but they denied being his missing sons. Paxton said years later that the doubts of that denial lingered in George's mind for the rest of his life until his death.
I wonder if we would be able to do like DNA testing now.
We probably could. Probably could.
Like, pull up the bones and like do that.
In 1968, George and Jeannie got a letter in the mail from a man in his mid-20s. This brought what they believed was the most credible evidence that at least Luis was still alive. One day, Jeannie found in the mail a letter addressed to her, postmarked from Central City, Kentucky, with no return address. Inside was a picture of a young man around 30 with features strongly resembling Luis's, who had been in his 30s if he had survived. It was written on the back, Luis Sodder. I love my brother Frankie. I Lil Boys. A90132 or 35. The parents believed that the photo was of their son, Luis, as an adult. The family then hired another private detective to go to Central City and look into the missive, but he never reported back to the Sodders, and they were unable to locate the PI afterwards. Subsequently, the PI had been reported missing and has not since been found.
Well, that's a little sketchy.
The picture, nonetheless, gave them hope. They added it to the billboard, leaving Central City out of it and any other published information out of fear that Luis might come to harm, and put an enlargement over it, over their fireplace. They were unable to verify this theory, but the man in this photo, to this day, remains unidentified, and it is unclear who sent the photo to them and why.
That's fucked up. Like, it's not fucked up, but like it's fucked up.
George admitted to the Charleston Gazette-Mail late the next year that the lack of information had been like hitting a brick wall. We cannot go any further. He nevertheless vowed to continue. He said, quote, time is running out for us. But we only want to know. If they did die in the fire, we want to be convinced. Otherwise, we want to know what happened to them. So, of course, Jeannie and George searched for their missing children until they eventually passed, posting a billboard advertising a reward for their return. George died in 1969. Jeannie and her surviving children, except John, who never talked about the night of the fire except to say that the family should accept what happened and move on with their lives, continued. Right? That's fucked.
I mean, but also, he watched his parents basically
crumble
and die searching for these children when, like, at this point, all he wants to do is just move on with his life. Like,
right.
Nothing can bring them back if they are dead. Like, there's obviously no answers to be had. So we need to just move forward.
Right.
Like,
we can't keep living in the past.
Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, sometimes that's just the means to the end that people have, you know?
Right. Well, the family continued to seek answers to their questions about the missing children's fate. After George died, Jeannie stayed in the family home, putting up fencing around it and adding additional rooms. For the rest of her life, she wore black in mourning and tended the garden at the site of their former house. Jeannie died in 1989, and after her death, the family finally took down the billboard. The youngest Sodder child, Sylvia, who was an infant at the time of the fire, is still trying to determine what really happened to her brothers and sisters. and continues to publicize the case in the 21st century with media and online personalities.
I mean, because all she heard were stories. She has no memories with them, so it's a what if kind of situation for her.
Right.
Yeah.
So she obviously wants to find out everything that she can that happened. So the surviving Sodder children, joined by their own children, continue to publicize the case and investigate leads. They, along with the older Fayetteville residents, have theorized that the Sicilian Mafia was trying to extort money from George and the children may have been taken by someone who knew about the planned arson and said they would be safe if they left the house. They were possibly taken back to Italy. If the children had survived all those years and were aware that their parents and siblings had survived too, the family believes they may have avoided contact in order to keep them from harm. Sylvia Sodder Paxton, the youngest of the surviving Sodder siblings, finally died in 2021.
Oh, wow.
She said the earliest memory that she had was being in the house the night of the fire.
Well, yeah, that's kind of traumatic.
Right.
Yeah.
I was the last one of the kids to leave home, she recalled to Gazette Mail in 2013. She and her father often stayed up late talking about what might have happened. I experienced their grief for a very, very long time, she stated. She believed that her siblings survived that night, assisted with efforts to find them and publicize the case. Her daughter said in 2006 she promised my grandparents she wouldn't let the story die and that she would do everything that she could. In the 21st century, the family's efforts... It just scrolled all the way back up.
No, I hate when that happens.
In the 21st century, the family's efforts have come to include online forums like websleuths.com, in addition to media coverage such as podcasts, like our favorite Bagel Bites, Wine and Crime, and a few others that, I follow. The increase in the latter has led to some who have examined the case and believe that the children did in fact die in 1945. For those of you who are listening who love our dear behind-the-scenes Holly, she does do deep dives on cases that we ask her to. Do you think I ever asked her to dive in on this case?
No.
Do you think she's doing it anyways?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Because it involves...
Children.
and conspiracy theories.
I was going to go with conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Oh, she's got a hard on for conspiracy theories, man. So,
yeah.
good God. So, George Bragg, a local author who wrote, Jesus Christ, breathe, bitch, who wrote about the case in his book in 2012, West Virginia's Unsolved Murders, believes that John was telling the truth in his original account when he said he tried to physically awaken his siblings before fleeing the house. He allows that conclusion may still not be correct. Logic tells you they probably did burn up in the fire, but you can't always honor logic. Stacey Horn, who did a segment for the case on NPR around its 60th anniversary in 2005, also believes the children's death in the fire is most plausible for the solution. In a contemporaneous post on her blog with the material she had cut from her story for the time, she noted the fire had continued to smolder all night after the house had collapsed, and that 2 hours was not enough time to search the ash thoroughly.
That's true.
It is.
As someone who's been to house fires, you need at least a day.
Right.
Right. For it to quit, all the embers to die down, to basically die.
Yeah, it takes at least 4 hours for the embers to
The
start
heat.
dying.
The heat just to go down as well. Like,
Right.
Yeah. Like,
and then for everything to just settle to the point where you can actually not worry about falling through shit. Well,
And-
let's worry.
and to think, like, they didn't have the fire trucks that we have now where they could hit it with the water to, like, speed up the process.
Right.
Like,
It was pails of water.
Yeah, when my friend's house burnt down, it took at least a day And that was with us like chucking water on it from like 3 different fire trucks. This was paled water. Like back then it was at least 3 days. So 2 hours? No.
No. I mean, so when my house got engulfed in the fires in California, it had just finished being built, maybe about a month prior. And it was just decimated the next day. There was like nothing to be found in it. I did find like in the storage shed, you know, because we had rented storage containers to put half of my shit in, and half the shit was at the old apartment. But my vinyls, all of my clothes, everything had to melded into this big plastic polyester mess of crap. I lost so many vinyls that day. Anyways,
I know.
regardless. So, even though the firefighters may not have known what to look for, she had stated, there is enough genuine weirdness about this whole thing that if someday it is learned that the children did not die in the fire, I won't be shocked. So we talked about this case being featured a lot. So BuzzFeed Unsolved, Bailey Syrian, Weird True Crime, Unsolved Mysteries, podcasts like Wine and Crime, We Would Be Dead, and That's Why We Drink, and now us. But I have theories.
Of course we do.
So,
Hit me with them theories.
okay, many people think that the missing children were killed in the fire, and that their parents were not able to accept their loss. And that's why they put all this money out there.
I mean, that's valid.
It is very
grief
valid.
Does weird things.
Grief does very fucked up things and weird things to people. And so that's the first theory that I came to, because being a grief counselor, even though I let my license lapse, you still had to go through the therapy, like, to learn this is how people deal with grief. It's not linear. It's time. Nothing happens the way that it's supposed to happen. And so denial sometimes is the most felt thing in loss. It's not acceptance or anything like that, because there's 5 stages. There's now 6 stages of grief, but people think that mainly anger and sadness are the ones that people hold on to. Denial is a huge one, that they're just like, no, they're not dead. Like, it's fake. Just like Jimmy Hoffa, which I already know Emily wants that case so she can have it. But regardless, the other one is that the children were abducted by the Mafia and taken to Italy.
Which is always a valid theory.
However, you know me. I love to do deep dives on Reddit.
As we all do.
I did. And let me just copy this. So before they died, this was their most recent photo. The fact that that's the picture that jumped up the first time I opened the messenger window, Emily, my God.
Look.
So the theory of them being alive and being abducted has been debunked. Whatever remains that weren't correctly identified were cremated because of the fire. Yes, this is correct. A normal house fire that burns long enough and hot enough definitely will cremate most, if not all, bones. Or forensics weren't just good back then. Personally, any mystery prior to the 80s that has anything to do with forensic, I automatically disregard. In the fall,
right?
The
fact that forensics weren't good, technology just wasn't there. Like, there's so many things.
I love that picture.
Oh, from Dr. Sister.
Yeah, they're on their honeymoon.
Like, what picture?
They're on their honeymoon. So the maid apparently was caught leaving the room, and It's too
She was
sad.
giggling and laughing to herself.
I love
Or
it.
she was giggling to herself and laughing harder when she saw them. And Dr. Sister was like, "Oh shit, did we leave a toy out?" No, they created this little they alternated the pink and red rose petals along the foot of their bed and created two little swans kissing inside of a heart with the rose petals, and it's adorable.
It's adorable. I love it.
Anyways.
Yes. So, in the fall of 45, a man came to the house and while at the house had mentioned that the wiring could cause a fire one day. Then around the same time, another man came by and was trying to sell them life insurance. George had declined, telling the salesman had become angry and told him, "Your house is going to go up in smoke and your children will be dead."
Rude.
Remember we talked about him earlier?
Yes.
And the fact that the missing ladder was found 75 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
There had also been 2 reports from people who had seen what had gone on the night of the fire. A woman had seen kids in the car leaving the area, but there were no other leads to report. The second report had been the day after the fire. A woman who worked at a tourist spot about 50 miles away had reported seeing the children and served them breakfast. She also said about the car with the Florida license plates. However, the lead brought no other information forward. I would say this case was very odd. It's possible people made up some reports, or it was just being a coincidence, or the kids being reported seen were just mistaken for the Sodder children. It's been at least 80 years since this happened and nothing turned up. However, to me, I still think foul play was involved and the kids and family suffered for it. And it's still sad regardless. This is all from the Reddit post. Me personally, I can get with the side of the mob taking the children and then setting the fire to the house and cutting the phone line, along with the trucks both working the day before and then suddenly not working. It's very sus. But it's
very mob-esque.
It's very mob-esque. I do think that the children did perish in the fire. If you think about the type of materials that were used back then, and asbestos, because it was common back then, asbestos did cause a large amount of fires, and when it did, it burned very hot, much hotter than a normal house fire would.
Not to mention, all the things were still flammable back then.
Oh, yeah. So, that is the case of the missing Sodder children.
I wonder, like, if the Mafia did have nothing better to do, and they did take these kids, with the rise of, like, ancestry DNA and all of that, and...
There is a note on that.
There is?
23andMe had a test that Cynthia Sodder had Irish, Scottish, and Spanish ancestry and shared 22% of her DNA with a man named Tommy Martin. There is a book, No Direct Evidence, and the story of the missing Sodder children has been described as one of the best true crime books. See here. But there is DNA on file for 2 of the children.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that? Raven walked in.
Okay, so there are 2... let's see here. One reply. So descendants and cousins have put in DNA. And as of this last year, let me go to this one. Go all the way to the bottom. Like you do, you know. Do. Play some elevator music.
It you know, because I was thinking with the rise of like 23andMe and Ancestry DNA and all of that, like, if they did survive, you know,
right,
would someone in like Europe, because that's obviously where they probably took the kids, would they pop up?
They probably would, considering the fact that she had 22% with this Tommy Martin. I have third cousins and fourth cousins. Come to find out, I'm related to them through my cousin who cheated on his wife. I found out he slept with 6 other women. And they are all my cousins. And I was like, holy crap. Because he's my third cousin. So he's my dad's cousin's cousin. So that makes him my third cousin. I'm related to these people. My mom's like, that never happened. And I did research and I did deep dive on it. Come to find out, he did have affairs with these women. And his wife was just like, I don't care. You come home every night. That's what matters to me.
23andMe destroying families since it came out.
Listen.
I'm sorry. I couldn't do that. The fact she knowingly was like, I don't care as long as you come back home to me tonight, and just lets him go and
look.
Cheats with like 6 other. No, get your shit and get the fuck out of my house.
Watch this. Hold on, honey.
Yes.
Would I let you go be philanthropic with other women? Why?
Yes, I'm yours.
That's right. You is mine. He know better. Even though, like, my brain still has me have nightmares thinking that he's going to leave me and divorce me and leave
That's
me
the
for
spicy weasels.
a younger
The
thermodel.
spicy weasel.
It is the spicy
The
weasels.
brain weasels.
So, that is our 1-year episode. We did a case that I personally love, that I know Emily would have loved and would have made Rachel mad. We hit all the check boxes, guys.
Well, my mute button not working makes me more mad, but
That's okay. That's okay. I can filter
that's
that
a
out.
problem for tomorrow, Rachel.
Yes, that is a problem for tomorrow, Rachel. Again, as always, we love you guys. We're so happy. A lot of people are joining our ranks and becoming party possums.
We love it.
We love it. Let's see here. Our podcast group is at 99.
Woo!
Not nearly at 100, but it's almost there.
We get in there.
Our podcast page is at 37 followers. I do post things on there, and as always, because of all the stuff that's going on in the internet, I would love to do the case on Kaylee Anthony.
I was
Because
thinking about that the other day.
let's not get started with that because we're all going to get angry.
Whoa.
If you're gonna do that, do not have me on this show because I have.
It's going to be a heated episode no matter who's on there.
That's gonna be a 6-part episode. 4
Rachel-
hours each part.
Rachel's a fur mama. I'm an adopted mama, and you are a mama. We would all be angry.
You see that? Who was it? Nancy Grace came out of retirement to fucking.
To say something about it? Yes. Did you know that
They're like this bitch.
Did you know that I stopped being friends with one of my kids? I had 12. I'm now down to 9. I stopped being friends with one of my kids because I posted, if you support Casey Anthony, I'm no longer going to be friends with you. And she called me on Facebook and she's like, I can't believe you're posting this. She's done nothing. And I was like, she's murdered her child.
Didn't report it for like a month. Oh, okay. Not this episode. Not this episode.
So, with that being said, our beautiful party possums.
Huh? I did not hear anything.
Stay feral.
Bite the hand.
And do stupid shit.
And we'll see you all next time.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Before we wrap up, we figured what's a celebration without a little nostalgia? So here's a collection of our finest or absolute worst moments from the past year. Enjoy the chaos, unhinged rants, and the questionable life choices. Because we sure did.
The French people.
I mean, oui, titi croissant.
I was about to say Canadians do.
Oh god, that was a lot of words. You came straight out with the cannibalism, like right a fucking way.
However, this
Wait.
time.
No, wait. What was her job? Was she still a nurse?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, there's rooms. There's rooms with doors. And there's closets. There's supply closets. I know where this is going. Keep going. In my future, I see supply closets and wandering hands.
This specific variety is from Scotland. They are associated with the unseelie court due to their tendency towards eating humans.
I beg your finest pardon.
Fuck yeah, concrete.
They prey on men using their feminine appearance to disarm them and get close, only to then slit open their throats and chest and drink the men's blood dry.
Fuck yeah. Feminism.
No! Don't
Don't go in the water.
go in the water. This is the worst episode of Jaws.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
And you don't even have to worry about the wildlife, which are scary enough.
That and also like the living beings, the human beings.
As opposed to the pinto beans?
Indeed, yes, pinto beans are a little safer.
Yeah.
Join me on a journey of terror. And upset. While Bonnie and Clyde were said to have died in the morning, stories say you can hear the sounds of gunfire in Gibson, Louisiana, on nights during a full moon.
The lake likes having her blood yearly, sometimes bi-yearly, or sometimes, quarterly,
Right.
because people don't leave her alone.
Look, it's a Wednesday.
Kitty Foreman, it's only Tuesday.
Shit, it's Monday.
From the bottom of our weird little hearts, thank you for listening, for supporting, and for making this community truly something special. Here's to another year of unraveling the unknown together. And most importantly, thank you for 1 year.